Welcome to another episode of Seahawks Forever, powered by BetUS. Today, I'm going to take a big swing, hopefully my final swing, in my final at-bat, taking on the issue of what has happened to the home field advantage at Lumen Field for your Seattle Seahawks. I have some points to make. I think I have some perspective based on decades of personal experience. Try to look at this thing from all angles. Where did it come from? Who's to blame? How do we fix it? This is Seahawks Forever. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Head on over to BetUS. Check out the latest money lines on all the NFL games, including your Seattle Seahawks hosting the Minnesota Vikings at Lumen Field at 1:05 on Sunday. All the prop bets and live betting set up over there for you as well. If you set up your new account today, they'll give you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third deposits using the promo code YouTube150. In the meantime, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notification of future episodes on all the audio platforms. Subscribe there as well so you know whenever there's a new episode. All the other ways you can support the show are down below. And you're going to want to tune in tomorrow, Friday, Blue Friday, December 20th. Not today. It may have appeared to some of you today that there would be a live stream. It's actually scheduled for tomorrow, Friday, at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest is going to be rejoining the show. This has been a little too tardy in coming, but we're both, we're both busy, and we have our stuff. Right now he's live streaming with the two Brandons, and hopefully you're tuning into that. But check it out tomorrow. We're gonna break down everything in this Vikings game. I always love Brandon's perspective because he has that perfect balance, I think, between being a passionate fan, as I am, but he is a very, very high-level X and O's guy as well, and can't wait to get his takes on how the Seahawks may or may not match up with this Minnesota Vikings game. Coming in at 11-2, the Vikings do on Sunday. Last home game of the year, unless the Seahawks make the playoffs, they'd probably have to win the division. Well, most likely, when you look at the odds, they'll have to win the division to get into the playoffs. Very unlikely the NFC West will get two playoff teams. And if they win the division, then there would be an opportunity for a home game. So let's hope this isn't the last home game of the season in totality. But certainly it's the last regular season game scheduled. They head on the road next Thursday in Chicago before finishing up against the LA Rams in a game that may be for the division title. What's the home crowd going to be like on Sunday? Minnesota's yet another one of those teams that has, a lengthy history. One of the old school teams, the legacy teams, as we call them, that usually brings with it a lot of opposing fan support. First, let's identify the issue. It has been a very strongly held belief among most, a prevailing thought, and a growing storyline throughout the season that opposing fans have been growing in number at Lumen Field. Whether that's true or not, it's almost impossible to track. I have spent hours in the last couple of days combing Google for a lot of background information on this, and some of it's not public knowledge, and it's hard to get a hold of. So we just go by feel and what we see. It's not a brand new problem. We've always seen opposing fans in the home stadium, especially with those legacy teams. I remember going to a New York Giants game 15 years ago, and there were tons. I was shocked by how many Giants fans were in the stadium. So it's not new. It's just, I think, in light of the reputation that Seahawks fans had and that stadium had for home support and how impactful it was when the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl with the Legion of Boom. And even going back to 2005, that NFC Championship game, I have said this for a long time, that atmosphere against Carolina Panthers 2005 will never be matched, ever. So if you watch old tapes of that, find it on YouTube. It's the most shocking thing to me. I went to the game, obviously, and I'll give you my background here in a minute. It felt like I was at a Motley Crue concert for 4 hours. That crowd started screaming at the top of their lungs before kickoff and never let up the entire game. Part of that reason was because it was their first time in an NFC Championship game, first time experiencing success, first time being on the verge of going to the Super Bowl. But if you go back and you watch the TV copy of that tape, you can barely hear the announcers. They're having to almost scream over the crowd in the background just to do their introduction at the beginning of that telecast. You heard Jake Delhomme after the game talk about how it impacted them so heavily. His teammates couldn't even hear him call plays in the huddle. Definitely impacted the game. And then we saw it impact games 2012, 13, 14, and beyond. What has happened to that? Why were there so many Packer fans there on Sunday? Why were there so many Bills fans 6 weeks ago? I'm going to get into that. I've got, let's see here, 8 reasons or factors, I'll call them, and just thought of a 9th as I was just talking to you in this moment. So let's get into that. First of all, my background. I think I'm qualified to speak on this subject. I'm older than the Seahawks are. I was 11 years old when they were born, and my family got season tickets at the very beginning. And so I didn't go to all the games. We had 3 tickets at the beginning. You know, the parents would go, and they would take one of my sisters sometimes, or work buddies, or friends. But I went to my share. And then, you know, my parents, money was always tight. And after a few years, it became a little bit of a burden. Seahawks had a couple of bad seasons. They let him go. 1984, they got him back again, and we've had him continuously ever since. 1984, the year I graduated from high school. And so I went away to college. So I didn't go to a lot of games those first 7 years because I wasn't in the area. But when I moved back to the Seattle area for good in 1999, I started going to almost every game with my dad most of the time. He was getting older. It was a little harder for him to get out and around. And then a couple years after that, he lost his eyesight. He became less mobile. It was harder for him to go to the games. And so in about 2001 or 2, I took over the tickets. Something a lot of you may not know is you cannot just transfer your tickets to someone else in your family by name, or you lose all your priority. You can make the transfer. He could have done that years ago. Put those tickets in my son's name. They're officially his. He owns them now. Okay, we can do that, but you're going to lose 40 years of priority. And where that priority comes into play is if you want to change or upgrade your seats. And when it comes to Super Bowl lottery, you get, however many balls, theoretical balls they put in the lottery. It's number of seats you have times number of years consecutively you've had your tickets with proper priority in good standing. Never won the lottery, never had a chance to get Super Bowl tickets. I'm 0 for 3. Hopefully we'll get another chance here soon. But I just wanted to give you that kind of background, right, as sort of an umbrella to hold up and operate under. Because I think I'm really qualified. I've been to almost every single game in the last 30 years, every home playoff game. I think I'm qualified to speak on the topic. There are some things that I see that all of you have pointed out, and then there's some things that I don't think are getting enough attention. I'm going to go over those today. First of all, the problem. When we look at the stadium, and I sit up in section 328. I've been there for about 10 years. I've moved around quite a bit. That's my favorite spot in the stadium now. I love the angle, love the perspective. You can see everything developing. It's undercover enough. If it's really windy and rainy, it kind of hits us. Or if it snows, we'll have to brush the snow, a little bit of the dusting of the snow off our seats. And every year I go through the relocation process just to see if there's something else, maybe a little farther down or whatever. But I don't. I like them there. And I like the people around me. That's a big part of it. I have literally changed seats some off seasons because I just couldn't stand the people around me. Either because they just were obnoxious, behaved like fools, or in the case of, there were a couple years that I had seats basically halfway up in the 300 level on the 50-yard line, which I thought were the perfect seats in the stadium. It was like watching TV live. But all the people that had been in that section had been there from the beginning because it's 50-yard line. They're the most in demand, right? And they had gotten so complacent. I remember going to the playoff game against the New Orleans Saints, not the Beast Mode one, the Beastquake one, but the one where, who was it that got into it with Jimmy Graham before the game? Was it Richard Sherman or Cam Chancellor? It was like, Jimmy who? Remember that game? And all through that season, the people around me would yell at me every time I would stand up. Get down in front, down in front. I'm like, you're season ticket holders to an NFL football game. You're not going to stand up and cheer? I actually showed up to that game, stood up, looked at all the people around me and announced, this is a playoff game. I'm standing. Deal with it. I think that's important perspective as well. That's why I wanted to give you that little anecdote, because it does show that over time, people do get complacent. There's a lot of blame going around right now and name calling. And one of the things is, if you're a Seahawks season ticket holder, you have a responsibility to act a certain way, perform, and come through. You have a responsibility to the team and to me as another fan that wants my team to win, to act a certain way. Love the section I'm in now. Love the people around me. Although I'm going to get back to that because there's an example of the two seats in front of me that I think is key. So first of all, we look down from there, and what I see is it's usually lower bowl club seats, right? 20 to 20, lower bowl, best seats in the house. You'll see them sprinkled around. I don't see as many of them in my section. I was not surrounded by cheeseheads on Sunday. They were down there. Those are the most expensive seats, and I think that's a key point. Not everybody can afford those. But also, those seats are attached to charter seat licenses. Or you'll hear them referred to as personal seat licenses. The Seahawks call them CSLs. Other teams call them PSLs. It typically happens nowadays when new stadiums are built or remodeled. And what it is you have to pay a fee just to get a right to be in that seat. It's like real estate. All that does is give you the rights to that seat. Then you still have to pay the price of the season ticket on top of it, which in that section of the stadium are the most expensive seats. That's a heavy lift for some people. And so when the Seahawks moved from the Kingdome to what was then CenturyLink Field, well, Seahawks Stadium first, and then CenturyLink bought the naming rights, there were some people from the Kingdome that couldn't afford the PSLs. So they either had to move to the 300 level or give up their seats. Once you own a PSL, you can transfer that. You can sell it to somebody else. It's yours to own. But you still have to pay for the tickets. So if you let your tickets lapse, if you miss deadlines, if you don't pay for your tickets in any one given year, and you don't sell that PSL, Seahawks can take it back. So there has been a thought and an accusation that some of those CSLs at Lumen Field were bought by ticket broker agencies. So they're not even owned by fans. Now, I have not been able to confirm that. And if you dig deep enough on the internet, you'll find stories that will refute that. The Seahawks own official website where they call it the CSL Marketplace, where they help to broker some of this if you need their help, to find buyers basically if you need to sell. Claims that no ticket brokers or agencies own those seats. But I have heard from people who are knowledgeable more than once from multiple sources that some of them are, that it's really impossible for the Seahawks to be able to track that and prevent it. So that may be at play. But even if it's not, let's take that away for a moment. Because of the expense of the CSL and the tickets on top of it, you damn well know that a lot of those seats are owned by companies. Some of them might be local companies. It could be your local donut shop down the street. But also, many of them, I would imagine, and again, can't confirm this, not public knowledge, are owned by corporations. Microsoft, Amazon, Expedia, take your pick. You would think that the reason those companies have those tickets is to dole them out to employees as rewards or to clients as rewards or enticements, trying to get your business, right? It's like taking a client golfing. But here's the thing. Is each of those companies going to vet who they give the tickets to? When this city exploded in population in the last 10, 20, 30 years, it was largely on the basis of the tech boom, Microsoft, Amazon. That means a ton of people are moving here from other markets, other areas of the country, other loyalties. So you may give those tickets out to some of your best employees or make them available, and maybe there's a lottery or people sign up for it, or it's first come, first serve or whatever. And they might be Packer fans. So that's one thing. You know, all of those Packer fans that were there at the stadium Sunday didn't all travel there to the game to be there. A lot of them lived here. I was in a long-term relationship with a Packer fan. She was probably there. There are Packer bars in the Seattle area. A company I used to work for owned a bar in Newcastle. It's called the Mustard Seed. It's a Packer backer bar. Don't walk in there as a Seahawks fan during a Packer game, because they're going to be watching the Packers and they're going to be screaming and wearing cheese heads. So it may have been a combination of forces this particular Sunday. Legacy team, fans everywhere, a team that was expecting to be very good this year. And so when that schedule comes out in May, they make plans. They plan ahead of time. They didn't just decide Wednesday to come to the game. So that's one obvious factor. Okay? Another one. The game day experience has gotten so expensive that sometimes it's cost prohibitive. It makes people think twice about buying tickets if they're not season ticket holders. And it makes season ticket holders think twice about going to every game. Keep in mind, this year, 9 home games. That's a lot. Sometimes you'll get 3 home games in a month. You know what we had? We had most of our home games stacked in the first half of the season. There was a bunch of home games there in a short period of time. Now, I've been to every single home game this year because I was excited about some of the changes, the new team, but I don't go to every single game every year. And sometimes it's for that reason. 3 home games in a month. By my estimation, it's about a $200 expense just to go to a game. If you drive there, certainly is. I used to, up until COVID, really, when I didn't live in the city, now I can walk to the stadium if the weather's nice, I would always drive and park in the Mariners parking garage because it was so convenient. It was right there. It was easy to get in and out. Once you learn the trick, always back in. But it was $40, and I was willing to pay it then. $40 for parking close to the stadium, safe, secure parking. Yeah, that was a no-brainer. Now it's $90. And there's lots nearby that are $100, $120, I see. And then you buy a couple of beers, a couple of hot dogs. Maybe you want to buy a hat. I mean, they keep coming out with new merch every week. Just when I think my closet's full enough and I can't buy any more merch. God, those social media ads, they get you, right? You're like, ugh, I have to have that hoodie. How can I not? It's expensive, right? Even if your boss at work hands you 2 free tickets to a game, he's handing you a $200 expense. There have been times where that's a factor for me. Also, this time of year, personally, my job is kicking my ass. It always does in December through February. This year is more intense than I can ever remember it. Like, I'm barely holding myself up. I had to spend the entire morning pretty much putting myself together and my life together just to have the energy to record this show. You might think I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. And so that sometimes it just makes it hard. So it's confession time. I'm going to sell my seats to the game on Sunday. I'm trying to sell them to Seahawks fans, but I'm running out of time. I'll come back around to that in a moment. But the reason is because of personal. I'd love to be there. It's an important game. But A, I am beat to shit from my work over the last few weeks. And Saturday night's going to be our heaviest lift of the year. I might not get home till 3 a.m. To turn around, go to a 1 o'clock game, that's tough. Not to mention, if I panned my camera around, you'd see how much work needs to be done in my house. Let's just say I'm a little behind on chores, okay? So everybody has their own personal reasons. There's weddings. There's commitments. You might be out of town. You might have a work commitment. There have been games where I had to work. I'm fortunate now that I work for a company that's not open on Sundays and Mondays, although the next couple of weeks we are going to be because of the holidays. Another reason that I've made the choice not to go on Sunday, because I got to turn right back around and work on Monday. But everyone has their own reasons. So the reason I wanted to touch on this one is because there's been a lot of rampant criticism that on social media, Blue Sky, Twitter, wherever you look, that if you're a season ticket holder and you sell your tickets and you don't guarantee that you're selling them to a Seahawks fan, then you should lose your tickets. I've literally had people suggest that, which is absolutely ridiculous. So that's another factor. Factor number 3, the home experience, consequently, is better than ever. Right now on Amazon, you can get a 70-inch smart TV for $369, 4K. Costco has a 75-inch smart TV in 4K for $469, and that's just online. They have better deals in the store. You can get a sound bar and surround sound like I do for $100. So the cost of going to one game, you can set yourself up to watch all the football you want for years in perfect definition and feel like you're at the stadium, eat your own food, not have to pay for parking, right? That's impacted sports attendance, I believe. Plus, fantasy football is such a massive industry and phenomenon, and it grows every year, that it's now it's not even the diehard fans anymore, it's casual fans. And so some of them I know personally, I've had conversations with people. They don't want to go to the games on Sunday because they want to be able to sit and watch Red Zone and track all the games. Sleep until the last minute, not have to get up early, not have to bundle up when it's cold outside. Those are factors too. Those are just human factors, right? Number 4 is the legacy team loyalty. Already touched on that. Some teams travel better than others, but there's another side to that, which I'll get to. Number 5. Could it be a factor this year in particular? Because it seems worse this year. It's certainly a more talked about subject. I think it's been more pronounced. The Buffalo game and this Green Bay game, I think, were the two, they were just exaggerated examples, and that's why it's become a topic. The Seahawks lost both those games as well, which only amplifies the debate. How many people may have, again, can't confirm this, that were Pete Carroll loyalists, that were pissed off and upset that the team got rid of Pete? We heard it for months. So people were very, very emotional about that decision. If some of those people are season ticket holders, might they have sold their tickets? It's something to consider. The next point, number 6, I think we're on. The Seahawks are slow starters, and that does not help energize the crowd. They are now 18 straight games into a streak of not scoring a touchdown on their opening drive. That doesn't help. And in both the Buffalo and the Green Bay games, again, the two examples where it's been most exaggerated this year, both of those teams came out at the outset and established themselves physically and dominated by running the football down the Seahawks' throats. Nothing sucks the wind out of a crowd more than that. That's why some of the discussion the last couple of years was centered around, well, the crowd just isn't as loud as it used to be. And my argument then was it's because teams, we can't stop a nosebleed. Nothing is more demoralizing than a team running the football at will, converting on 3rd and longs on offense, holding you to 3rd and longs. What was it? Up until week 7 or 8, the Seahawks average down in distance on 3rd down was 8 yards. It sucks the life out of the crowd. It doesn't get the crowd behind him because I'm telling you, even if whatever number you want to pick, if you think 30% of the fans in the stands on Sunday were Green Bay Packer fans, or if you think it's 40%. If the Seahawks play well early, don't fall behind 17-0, don't get hit in the mouth like they did by Josh Jacobs and that Green Bay offense, then the Green Bay fans just aren't energized. The Seahawks fans are, they'll drown them out. Because I am telling you, I have seen with my own eyes different behavior this year. Fans are in line earlier. They're in the stadium earlier. They're in their seats earlier. It was a major problem the last 7 or 8 years. At kickoff, 40% of the seats not being filled yet. People being much more concerned and willing to wait in line at the concession stand to get their beer or their hot dog before they get to their seats. Not concerned with being in their seats at kickoff. That's been different this year. The stadium, in my opinion, has been louder and more intense at kickoff all year long. But then the results of the first quarter and the start of the game swings it in the opponent's favor. We're about halfway through some of this, about 2/3 of the way through. I'll give you the rest of it and what might be done about it after this. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Here's hoping from me to you that you're finding all the peace and joy this holiday season that you deserve. And if you're not, that you have an outlet, that you have somewhere to turn to find that comfort. For me, during the holiday season, one of the things I enjoy the most is football, although it can be easier sometimes than others. The other, of course, is surrounding myself and connecting with those that I love. Although right now, a little bit stressed because the one that I love the most isn't here with me at the moment. If you're struggling with anything in your life, be it just the daily grind of the rat race or something more deep and impactful than that, sometimes turning to someone else is the answer. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and they'll match you with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you just don't feel like that's the right match for you. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/forever today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/forever. Guys, I did it again last night. Wore my Doer Performance Stretch jeans to the game, and they are perfect. They're lightweight, breathable, yet tough. They worked perfectly over a base layer on what was a cold night at Lumen Field, just as they were as comfortable in 70-degree heat last week when I went to see the Seahawks play in Glendale against the Arizona Cardinals. Doer is built for doing, and they specialize in lifestyle apparel for any occasion featuring antibacterial and sustainable materials. Trust me, I know you're going to love your Doer apparel just as much as I do. Check out Doer's flagship stores in either LA or Denver, or shop online at shopdoer.com/forever. And right now, my listeners and viewers get 20% off your first purchase when you use the exclusive URL shopdoer.com/forever. That's shopdoer.com/forever for 20% off your first order. All right, welcome back. And again, if you want to support the show, all the links are down below. Definitely hit that subscribe button on YouTube and that bell for notification of future episodes, if you would. Best way to support the channel. Now, one other factor that I don't think gets talked about enough is even if the opposing crowd didn't make up a significant percentage of the seats, if that Green Bay number had been 20% instead of 40 or whatever it was, home field advantage isn't what it used to be in the NFL. It's just not. Even if you pack that stadium with all Seahawks fans and they're screaming at the top of their lungs the whole game, guess what? It doesn't impact the game the way it did in 2005 with Jake Delhomme and the Carolina Panthers. It doesn't. Teams have gotten really sophisticated in how they deal with crowd noise, really good at it. They don't huddle anymore in that case. They have silent counts now, and they're all really good at it. And so I don't even think it would impact the game the way it used to, where the defensive line gets that extra half second off the snap, because they're not going off of the snap, off of the cadence. It's a silent count. So it takes a little bit of that edge off anyway. Next point. What can we do about it? So there is a thought out there, it's been talked about a lot this week, that somehow the Seahawks should set up their own website to broker people that want to sell tickets on a much larger scale, similar to what Brian Nemhauser's been trying to do with his ticket exchange on his Hawk Blogger website. And he's made a dent. He's had an impact. I think he facilitated the sale of 100 sets of tickets last week. That's remarkable. It's great. Love the effort. The Seahawks cannot do that. They cannot do that. The NFL has a contractual business relationship with Ticketmaster to run the ticket exchange. Not even talking about the secondhand stuff. There's no way the Seahawks can prevent someone from selling their tickets to whoever the hell they damn well please. And there's so many layers to this, okay? And I'm going to use myself as an example. Again, I told you I'd get back to it. I have tried, you've seen it if you follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky, I have tried to offer these tickets to someone I know. Facebook, at work. So far, no takers. Not even trying to make a profit. Also, that's another factor I didn't list here, but you can. You don't make as much of a profit as you used to. 2013, 14, you could sell your tickets and triple what you paid for them. Not the case anymore. You're lucky to get face value. So that's not a motivator. But if I can't find someone, then I'm going to use the ticket exchange to sell them, and here's why. If you're a season ticket holder and I give you my tickets to the game, even if I've known you for 30 years and I trust you and I've never seen you do anything inappropriate in your life, if you go act a fool using my tickets, get drunk and spill your beer on someone in front of you, throw up on someone, get in a fight, get a complaint, get kicked out, the Seahawks can and will take my season tickets away. There was a time when my dad was more involved in the account, when his account manager reached out to him, or maybe he reached out to him with a question. His account manager said, "Oh, by the way, did you know you have a complaint in your file?" I said, "What?" "There's a complaint about smoking." I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, vape, anything else. I'm about as anti-smoking as you can get. It took me some digging, but I figured out what happened. I had given my tickets to a coworker, someone that I was very, very connected with, very close friendship, trusted them implicitly. What happened is he went up during a break, I think it was halftime, and his sister was at the game too, using other seats. And they met up on the concourse. "Hey, I'll meet you there. We'll chat a little bit." His sister was sneaking a smoke on the edge of the concourse. It's a complete no-smoking facility. A stadium agent walked up, asked for her ticket stub. She didn't have it on her. So my friend who was using my ticket said, here's mine. If you need to record a ticket stub, here's mine. So I had something put in my file because of that. They have a strike system. If something else had happened at some other point, I could have lost my tickets. That's how tight they are. They do take people's tickets away. The ticket exchange run by Ticketmaster through the NFL guarantees you're off the hook. If I put my tickets on there to sell and someone buys them, they acknowledge the personal conduct policy. I'm off the hook. They can do anything and I don't lose my tickets. That's a very, very important factor that I don't think people realize exists. Well, then why couldn't the Seahawks just have their own website like that where they verify, they do ID verification, right? Driver's license. You have to show a picture, zip code verification. Okay. That's a great idea. But what if every team did that? Now you can't go see the Arizona Cardinals playing in Glendale. You can't see the Seahawks play the Cardinals like I did last week. Now you can't travel to Atlanta to watch them play the Falcons like 20,000 Seahawk fans did this year. Now you can't go to MetLife Stadium and watch them play the Jets like 20 to 30,000 Seahawk fans did this year. We impacted those games in the same way that Bills fans and Packers could be heard at the games here. You could hear it on TV. The Atlanta game sounded like a Seahawks home game once the Seahawks took control of it. You heard Go Seahawks chants. I saw it with my own eyes in Glendale last week. It felt like a Seahawks home game in the second half once we took control. If you want to lock things down here so that no opposing fans can buy tickets, then you can't go watch them elsewhere either. You can't have it both ways. I mean, it to me, it all just comes back to play better. Get off to better starts. Build a more physical team. If the Seahawks had come out Sunday night, and that was one of the greatest atmospheres I'd ever experienced. The kudos to the stadium staff, the Seahawks marketing and PR staff, what they put together, the lighting, the music, the entertainment, the drone show, all of that. That place was rocking and ready to go. If the Seahawks had come out and done to the Packers what they did to us, come out in that first quarter and pounded the football and run it down the Packers' throats, taking a 17-0 lead and been in control of the game early, you wouldn't have heard Packer fans. And half of them would have started leaving in the third quarter. That's what it comes down to. They have to play better at home, and they have to continue to develop in the style that Mike Macdonald says he wants to develop. And we're not there yet, obviously. I've just spent 34 minutes talking about crowds. I could have spent 34 minutes talking about the performance of the offensive line. But you can't fix that in 1 year. It's like the Packers didn't. The Packers transitioned their offensive line. They had a very good one a couple years ago with David Bakhtiari and some of the other guys they had there. And those guys all got old and injured or whatever. That whole offensive line now is new. They're all 22, 23, 24 years old. They're all second and third day draft picks. They weren't that great at the beginning of the season. They've come together. Seahawks haven't had an opportunity to do that. They've had too much change. They have a couple guys that shouldn't be playing on that line. They've had injuries. They need to get there, as Mike Macdonald says, is his mission. If he fails, if he and John Schneider fail to build that type of football team, a Ravens-type football team that can physically impose their will and dominate teams and play that style, then you're not going to get the crowd into it the way we're used to seeing, or were used to seeing 10 years ago. A finesse football team probably isn't going to have that impact either. So I think I get the frustration. I do. I'm frustrated too. But I didn't walk away from that game thinking for 1 second that the reason the Seahawks lost that game was because there were a bunch of Packer fans in the stands. Not at all. What are the Seahawks on the road this year? 4-1? 5-2? Wait, how many? I'm trying to. Yeah, 5-2. No, 5-1? I could Google it, but I don't want to. They have a winning record on the road. It's not just the home stadium. I would argue they've played better teams at home too. The home schedule's been tougher, but they just haven't played as well. Chicken before the egg. Let's stop with the idea that the crowd needs to be better so the Seahawks can win, and get back to focusing on the Seahawks need to get better so they can become one of the elite teams in the league, and then everything else is going to fall into place, and that crowd's going to follow, man. And then you could have play on a neutral field. You could go 50-50. Have 50% Packer fans there. Seahawks come out and play the way Mike Macdonald wants to play football. Get on top of teams. Beat teams. The crowd will sound dominant again. What do you think? Do you have any solutions? Anything I didn't mention? Yeah, big game on Sunday. It's essentially a must-win. I've seen all the different scenarios. There's still a scenario they can win the NFC West if they lose on Sunday. I have some ideas about how they might match up a little bit better with the Vikings even than they have against some of the teams they've played lately. I may be crazy. Maybe I'm just trying to talk myself into it and be optimistic. Can't wait to get Brandon's thoughts on that tomorrow. Again, 11 o'clock Pacific time, Friday the 20th. Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest is going to join me. It's going to be live, so bring your comments, your takes, your questions, get his thoughts. We'll have a discussion on what we think we expect to see on Sunday and kind of where the team is, too. It's my first time checking in with Brandon since the beginning of the season, so looking forward to talking to him. Until then, follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Seahawks Forever. And be sure to subscribe to the channel. Till next time, forever and always, go Hawks.